Welcome back, Tribe. Got an interesting one here from the whole Daily Wire gang talking about the red pill and where it all went wrong, according to them. Let's see.
The red pill has evolved over 5 years to essentially now mean I would say anti-woman. They would say pro-man, but I think it's far beyond pro-man. I think it's decidedly anti-woman in many ways. And you see people who, I think some of them are bad actors who are peddling, but then you also see people like Pearly Things who, I don't know Pearl. I don't know if she's a bad actor or not. I kind of get the sense that maybe she's just a naive person being kind of dragged along out of half desire to be famous and half probably hasn't read a book. And half
blows my mind that women got into this space and they got successful when one of the pillars of red pill space is never take advice from women. But you'll see creators with like tats up to their neck, tats on their face, chicks that are like the red flags are there. I'm not going to go even further than that. Let's just say the red flags are there, but they're giving men advice on women, and there's nothing but an army of simps in the comment section supporting them, signing up for their subscriptions, all that stuff. The game will never change, bro. The red pill was never meant for the mainstream. It was just simply, here's the information about how this stuff really works. Do with it as you will. Understand it's a competition, and the only way to survive is by improving. Can't hate something when you understand its nature. There's not, like, the real red pill never hated women, never hates women, period. What he's referencing is probably more of the black pill stuff, red pill rage phase guys, dudes that are barely coming into this kind of content, never had experiences with women or have had bad experiences with women, and therefore, spew a bunch of crap out onto the internet because it's all it takes is hitting the record button and posting stuff. So in that sense, I understand. But with any movement or ideology, whatever, when it goes mainstream, it turns to shit. Nothing new here. In a way, he is right.
Half of that I can relate to.
But the other half, you can also relate to.
But I do think it's this interesting question that is harder to talk about in one-on-one settings. It might befit this format. Just to talk about what is the role of men and women, what is the role of marriage in a society that has essentially turned its back on the concept of marriage, that is legally encoded anti-man policies into our legal code.
The definition of marriage.
Abolish the definition.
It's not anti-men. They've abolished difference. They've abolished the difference between men.
The distinction itself.
Yeah.
I just went on the Whatever podcast.
Yeah.
For my, I think it's now my 28th hour on that show.
That was 6 hours
after a 3-hour debate on the show. So I did.
That was a separate thing?
Yeah, I did 9 hours.
You did 9
basically
hours?
straight. Yeah.
Whoa.
But it was worth
What the hell?
it. It was great. It was great. I really love that show. I love it because
It got almost every question.
when I did it the first time.
You couldn't pay me. You pay me $1 million. I wouldn't.
No, I love it because these poor girls, man. The whole thing with that show, which is why it's so funny, is you get.
Hold on, I'll pay you $10,000.
You're really going to do it.
You're like 11. No, the thing with that show that makes it very funny is guys go on and they make fun of these girls who have OnlyFans who are like 18 and don't know anything. And then the guys completely destroy them. And then the girls look like dummies. And then the clip goes viral. And I felt it would be wrong to do that. I felt I might get a lot of views, but I might also burn in hell for eternity. And I thought about it for a moment. And then I thought, no, okay, I won't do it. And so I went on. And
I also have a rule: never give the audience what they want.
Yeah, exactly. Never. I went on a great
Michael
discourse about the Treaty of Augsburg. So I go on there, and I just felt it's not these girls' fault. All of them have some weird family situation. None of them. We live in a culture that teaches them a ton of lies. They have no education. Even if they went to good schools, they have no education. They don't. So I felt, okay, let's just talk about what's really going on here. And they're victims of feminism, and the red pill guys are victims of feminism. And the irony about the red pill guys, I sympathize with them a lot of ways. The family courts are totally stacked against dudes. The culture promotes divorce and abolished the definition of marriage and blah, blah, blah. But the red pill guys are feminists. Their sense of men and women is basically this. Right. It's just that men and women are interchangeable.
Yes.
And go around, screw around, you owe nothing to women. If it's good for women, it's good for men. And that's just a lie. The fundamental unit of society is actually not the individual.
Right.
I love individual rights. It's good to be an individual. The fundamental unit of society is the family. It's men and women together who have a love that becomes so real that you make more people.
Well, to have...
Okay, so I guess he's arguing that the individual isn't as important as the family. So a man has a duty to find a woman, procreate, start a family, better society in that fashion by planting down roots instead of being selfish, banging a bunch of women, screwing around, never committing, perpetuating the cycle of broken women and, trauma from dating and pumping and dumping and all that stuff. So I mean, I agree. I can't disagree. As someone who's partaken in hookup culture in college, because didn't know any better, I'm a young, dumb kid, I could see the shortfalls of being in that kind of lifestyle. I could see how guys that don't grow out of that phase are dealing with their own childhood trauma, their insecurities about what it means to be a man and what masculinity is, and they're trying to prove to themselves and to the rest of the world that they are men by bedding as many women as they can. I mean, you know, it's a phase that you have to grow out of as a man if you come from a certain background where maybe daddy wasn't present, a tumultuous relationship with your mom, some really bad breakup with a woman that may have left you, you know, down the red pill phase, turned into the quote F boy, and now you're just that guy that sleeps around and doesn't want to do anything with women. But then there's the, you know, I understand that there's also the older part of this crowd that I don't know if they get into it later. The men that have gotten married, were with just one woman most of their life, had kids, did the whole thing, house, big yard, big dog, and it blew up in their faces, and now they want nothing to do with it anymore. There is a section of those guys, you know, after getting wrecked in divorce court, they come out and warn everybody else against it. But like all things, man, there's a lot of nuance in between there. So essentially, everybody is at least partly right in diagnosing the issue.
To have an atom, you have to have a proton and an electron, right? So it's like a man is a proton, like very important, but essentially nothing until it's
To
unified.
have Adam, you need to have an Eve.
No,
That's where I thought he was going.
that's where I thought he was
And
going.
then I
to.
thought he was going to go for the Steve thing, and
Yeah.
I was just going to.
That's why
Not Steve.
I've always
Two protons an atom does not make. I dare say.
I've always with the red pill, you know, and I've been in many altercations with the red. I've run afoul of the red pill crowd many times talking about these issues. And the question I've always had for them that they've never answered, and I'd love to hear an answer from any of them, is that, you know, because I agree with 95% of their criticisms, as you point out, the family courts and it's how it's stacked against men and so on and so forth. What's the other option? Okay, we agree with all that. So then men should just be alone and give up on their bloodline and die, and their bloodline is extinguished. Like what you are suggesting is despair. You are telling men are already feeling despair.
No, I don't think anybody in this space that's worth anything will tell a man that he should avoid women completely. Your interactions or the interactions of other men doesn't mean that you'll have the same interactions. But to answer his question, what should men do? Passport bros. That is the natural answer. If the other side of the aisle is deeply ingrained in feminist ideology and just Marxism, postmodernist beliefs, have been brainwashed in college, fully drinking the I'm strong, independent, boss babe Kool-Aid, I don't need a man, what are men even good for kind of stuff, then the natural inclination for a man is to just pack up, leave, and go somewhere else. Go to where you're treated best, as the nomad capitalist guy talks about when he's speaking regarding finances. Well, it's the same kind of concept when you're speaking about dating, marriage, relationships, starting a family. Go where you're treated best. There are other countries, most actually, it's only our side of the little pond in the little part of our world where family values, where gender norms have been destroyed so completely that, you know, we have to have conversations about what a man and what a woman is. But in other parts of the world, you can go and be appreciated for your masculine qualities. You can be appreciated for your ability to provide for a family, willing to protect your family, willing to break your back at work and do everything you can so that your wife can elect to stay at home and raise the kids, so that you're not spending money on daycare and whatever else you would need because, you know, both parents have to work. Again, every single man in this space that's worth his salt would tell you that ideally you need to work on yourself. You need to make enough money so that your woman can elect to stay at home. We understand the reality of the economics in the world that we're living in today. So yes, most of the time you're going to have to both work, which is again a detriment. If you're going to sacrifice to have a family, you don't want strangers raising your kids. You don't want strangers indoctrinating your children. It's ideal, not only psychologically, the whole nature nurture argument. It's absolutely important that the woman stay at home with the children, probably for the first few years, for the psychological upbringing. Who's going to take care of your kids? Who's going to give them the attention, the nurturing that they need, like their own mother would? You think a stranger you pay an hourly wage gives a shit about your kid? When they come and babysit your kid, they're watching them, they're enriching their minds? No, bro, it's an hourly wage. You drop them off at the daycare, there's 20 other kids there. You think yours is going to be looked at any special way? No, it's just another bot. Here's the next one getting dropped off. Money bags, cha-ching, cha-ching, that's all it is. Make sure these kids don't swallow chalk and kill themselves. That's like the bare minimum that these people do. So yeah, we understand the reality of the world today. Hey man, there's a lot of people whose mentalities don't align with ours. We want a traditional household. If I'm going to go out there and break my back as a man, I want to make sure my woman is able to stay at home and raise my kids so that we can build a legacy together. We can build a legacy together. That formula has succeeded for thousands of years and will continue to succeed. It's much better than the progressive version of a family, whatever the hell that caricature looks like, because they constantly change the definition. Nothing will beat the man and the woman together raising a kid, period. Doesn't matter what they tell you. And then involving the extended family. In order for you to do that as a man today, you have to go above and beyond. You can't be average anymore. Average doesn't pay the bills, unfortunately. Average is starving in the world today. Factories have been shipped overseas. Inflation has crushed any rise in wages. Wages themselves have been stagnant. Schooling has exploded in cost. I mean, you graduate with a mortgage on your back that's not dischargeable. Better pray, at least in America, you don't get in an accident. My uncle just got a stent put in his heart. He's 67, 68 years old. That's $1 million right there that it cost him. He's not insured. Imagine you break your arm at work, break your foot, whatever. You need an ambulance there. Something happens, you pass out. That's your ass, bro. That's another mortgage on your back. Life's not fair today. If anything, it's more unfair. The powers, the scales are more tipped unevenly than ever before. It's do or die, man. It's a dog-eat-dog world. A lot of people don't want to tell you the truth, so you don't have to face the reality that you're pretty much effed if you don't rise above average. That's why even women instinctually, like, even if their brain is propagandized with all stuff, they instinctually know average is no longer enough in the world today. Average doesn't cut it, dude. Can you survive on an average wage today in the city that you're living in? Nope. You couldn't even fathom raising a family. You could barely sustain yourself, let alone a woman, and then add a kid on top of that with all those costs. It's incredible, man. This is why the passport bros idea is taking off. I've always, at least on this channel, don't know what other guys are talking about when they talk passport bro stuff. I've always said the priority to you going overseas is financial freedom. The fact that the dollar can be 5 multiples over in value instantaneously in a local economy like the Philippines, where you can go and live on $2,000 a month very well. You're not surviving, you're living, you're going out with your girl, you're spending money, you're experiencing things, you're renting a boat, you're going out there fishing on the ocean. You're eating out at restaurants multiple times a day. You're living life. You have excess spending power. That's what Passport Bro does. You just have to figure out how to get income coming in while you're remote. Now, that's the hard part that you have to, again, answer yourself with your own skill set that you've acquired in life. The easy one for a lot of guys is the older dudes are retired, so their pensions just come in and they're able to go wherever they want. A cool landing spot for them is always Thailand and the Philippines. I mean, imagine eating out at a restaurant for $2. That's insane, dude. With palm trees all around you, fresh coconuts, and great weather, and incredible looking beaches and tropical jungles. Like, it's wild. That's just one example. But yes, to close out this conclusion, Passport Bros, by all means, will be the number one answer that men will go to as they feel this disconnect in society growing more and more. And they feel it will not be worth the needle in the haystack odds of finding something decent. And even then, you're not guaranteed because we all know about the laws. That's beating a dead horse.
They're feeling meaninglessness. They're feeling lost. They're feeling alone. They're feeling like everything's stacked against them. And so your answer to them is, yeah, well, be in despair and then die. And
Nope.
my point is that's just not an okay answer. That can't be the answer.
And have lots and lots of sex.
Well, but that's the
Sterile
That's
sex.
what you said.
Although not as much as a married man.
Right, exactly.
But this is what you were saying is that's how it turns to the anti.
Yeah.
Because it's not about
What?
the despair.
I hope he was joking when he said not as much as a married man. That was like a dig at himself.
The way that you find meaning is then by disparaging the people who have victimized you. Right? In any victim-victimizer sort of narrative, when there is no actual victim and victimizer and it has to be sort of put together artificially, then the person who self-perceives as the victim is very likely to then strike out at the person who they perceive as the victimizer. And so for a lot of the red pill men who perceive the woman, the great woman, as the victimizer, the idea is that you lash out at women by having lots of sex with random girls and basically treating them like trash.
Not even, it's even devolved further than that. It's what the other guy said before. It's the despair thing. A lot of guys are just opting to not deal with women whatsoever. It's like, and I've had that conversation on this channel with you guys before. I understand if you're 50 years old and you've already been through the ringer, married, kids, divorced, and you've done it all, you lived your full life and you don't want to deal with women anymore in the final, quarter of your life. Totally understandable. But For a dude to be like 15, 16, 17 and be like, I'm going my own way. I'm not dealing with women anymore. Screw that. They're not worth anything. Succubuses. They're nothing but leeches. It's like, bro, you never even kissed a girl. What do you know about women? Shut up, bozo. You're too stupid. You need some experience. At least go out there and attempt to talk to women. Attempt to forge a relationship. Get intimate. At least give it a shot. At 17, you can't say you're going your own way. You don't even have a path in front of you. You're still at home under your mommy's teat. No. And unfortunately, there's a huge majority of those kinds of men, just in general, because of the infantilization. We talk about it, how women are being infantilized today. Well, it's happening to men too. Essentially, man-childs, man-boys, boys in a man's body. That thing has exploded. There's a bunch of men today, grown-ass men, with very little to no experience with women, but will consume this kind of content, be in the comment section, or formulate some type of idea how women are the enemy. It's like the only men that say women are the enemy, women are the problem, like it's a woman's fault. Like if you ever said it's a woman's fault, you need to go start touching grass, because women have very little power. This goes far beyond, like, they voted for this. I read that in the comment section all the time, and it just makes me laugh. I'm like, yeah, bro, 19-year-old Tina voted for all of this shit. Just like you voted for all this shit, too, that's happening to you right now. Like, you're both two powerless bozos. You hold zero sway on politics. Nobody cares about you when you cast your vote. The politicians laugh all the way to the bank as they make your life more miserable. You're working increasingly more shitty gig-like jobs, temp work, while they get richer and fatter, and their kids go to the best schools, and they're getting married and having children. And you're over here figuring out if you want to eat ramen or a microwave meal. That's insane, dude. But sure, it's the same way they say it's man's fault on the women's side. Think about it. It's all men's fault that this is happening. We roll our eyes and go like, yeah, what power do I have to make all this shit happen? Is the same way when you say, yeah, it's women's fault. They'll roll their eyes and say, what the hell power do we have? But the answer is, if you look each other in the face and go, okay, well, if it's not you and it's not me, who's doing all this shit? And that's when you start to look up and you go, oh yeah, it's the people writing in the rules. It's the guys that sign all the papers that say these are what the laws are. It's the ones that pass all these bills that say this is the direction society's going in. It's the ones in the boardrooms that are crafting these social engineering programs to get us going in a certain direction that's leading to our demise. Everybody below them, that would be competition. Their progeny does better and better. Their progeny doesn't partake in all these ideologies. They're going to those private schools up in Switzerland where they're learning to be the new world leaders. Meanwhile, your kids are going to the public school that have instituted these new ideas, their luxury beliefs, onto your children, onto you. And now you're graduating college, a radicalized nut job. People don't want to see what's really going on, man. It's really easy to reduce down the conversation to, it's all your fault. You're a woman. You guys voted for this. Repeal the 19th. Why are they voting? So dumb. And it's just like, think about the people who let all of this happen, who've constructed this entire direction that society is headed in, and how they benefit. How much money, how many billions of dollars have they made from all these decisions? How many billions and trillions of dollars will they continue to earn as this is happening? Do you think somebody's going to stand up now that there are no families anymore? You think men are going to go out and bleed in the streets for change, for justice, for rights? Why should I? I have no family. Where's my wife at home? I have nothing to fight for. I'd rather go home and play video games for 8 hours a day. F that. What am I going to go out and die in the streets for? Whose rights? I got just enough that people won't bother me. The government won't come breaking down my door. I could go just play whatever Call of Duty all day. I don't have a kid I have to worry about. I have no roots planted in society. I have no skin in the game. Therefore, I'm not a threat. I'm nothing. I'm pacified. And that's the goal. If they could break us down here, then they'll always have power at the top. No one will ever challenge anything. Before, families were the norm. If your neighborhood was turning into shit, people would get out in the streets and be pissed. The entire neighborhood, all the families. This isn't safe for our kids. If the town turned to shit, same thing. Everybody would get in the streets, and all the people, the councilmen in the town would have to answer for why the hell this has gone to shit. Same thing. Just keep going up and up and up to the state and then eventually to the country. We're too disconnected now. You see this in a microscopic fashion too when you look at your own neighborhood. Just look how much, I don't know about you guys, but my old neighborhood that I grew up in has turned to absolute shit. It's so dirty. There's random trash just like floating down the street through the air. There's cars all over parked in places they shouldn't be. Cops raided a house not too long ago because they were fucking dealing, I don't know how many crazy amounts of narcotics or whatever it was. Kids got arrested. There's constantly people coming and going. There's no more kids just walking up and down the street. No more like people holding a little basketball and playing outside in the front yard, football, nothing, bro. And nobody cares. The neighbors don't wave at each other. The neighbors literally, the neighbor to the left, to the right of you don't speak. I mean, think about the apartment you currently live in. Are you friendly? Like really friendly? Do you have a conversation when you come back to your apartment and you happen to meet your neighbor leaving or going? You sit down and ask them and have a genuine conversation for about 5 minutes catching up? No. You probably don't even know who lives there. I know that for a fact when I was in the States and lived in the apartments I was living in, I didn't know the dude who was across the door, across the hallway. I had no idea. Didn't care. Didn't ever see them. Maybe once or twice when I look through the peephole when I'm hearing noise of someone coming and going. And that's the world we're building today. And it does benefit somebody. It's just not you.
And it's okay because they said that it's okay with them, but that doesn't, I've never understood the argument that it relieves you of responsibility for treating a woman well just because the woman has consented to be treated badly.
But he's right about the despair. This is permeating the right. It permeates the politics of the right. It's the idea is basically it's all over. They think of people basically, Ben, like you and me, as sitting on an ice floe, kind of floating out as the ice, melts away, because we're sitting around thinking about civil debate and, constitutional governance, and they think that's all over now. And their despair permeates the right. And I listen to a lot of these young guys, and they're talking about bringing back monarchy. They're talking about, they're king. I know you look.
What? I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything.
But we had monarchy. It's not that great. It actually isn't. If you think our elections are bad, wait till you see the beheadings. Because that's how most of the kings of England were killed.
Yeah, I know. I mean,
that's fine.
I'm not saying we need an imam or a sheikh.
Honestly, this whole conversation would be putting me to sleep, but I can't go to sleep right here. I need my Helix sleep mattress.
Whoa.
So good.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's their whole position. They think that marriage is
what men are anti-marriage?
Well, yeah, that's
Literally
why
none.
they shouldn't be.
No man is anti-marriage or anti-marriage laws. They're anti-marriage culture. That's what they are. We would love to be married. We would love to provide and protect for our families. We'd love to assume our masculine duties. We want to come home and see our wives smiling and our kids laughing and just, security, safety, and happiness in the air. We would love that. We would kill for that. It's just not the reality in the world today. And the laws are one of the biggest, if not the biggest reason for every single man that says don't get married. There's always the asterisk in the West. Don't get married in the West. Don't get married until the laws change. Don't get married until no-fault divorce is abolished. Don't get married until there's no more bias in the courts for women. There's always asterisks there that they never say. Why aren't they saying that? Because no man, I don't know any man that's against marriage, the concept of marriage. I know a ton of men that are against getting married under the current framework that we're in legally speaking.
But it's...
No, but he's right. This is true.
All the guys that pop up in our Twitter feed.
But tell me, I'm actually missing this.
Well,
I didn't know the marriage thing. I'm very pro-marriage.
Pearl made that argument.
Who gives a shit what
Okay.
Pearl says?
Men should not get married.
Okay.
Because the institution...
But are men listening to that? Like, are men saying that men shouldn't get married, or is that a woman saying that a man shouldn't get married?
Well, I think that there are examples of men saying it as well, but I think Pearl is sort of one of the prominent voices.
Simp
a lot
queen.
of the
but
people
she's not married.
No.
Yeah. Okay. So then that I think that's a huge thing, right? I mean, obviously, it's like listening to people that don't have kids tell you why you shouldn't have kids. Like it doesn't really work, right? Because when you're telling them about what changes inside of you when you get married, and I think it's very easy to gravitate towards that. That is a feminist message, not to get married. And if her argument is, if your quarrel is with the courts, I could agree with you. Like, the courts have done tons of things that are awful that I disagree. I don't even agree necessarily with the courts taking marriage at all. It was a church thing, and they took it, and this is how we ended up with gay marriage rights, which I'm very much opposed to.
Well, I would say that a big part of the red pill thing that we would all probably agree with, they diagnose actual problems.
Right.
So when Pearl or other people in the movement come along and say, this is a major problem in society,
Right.
I almost always agree with them.
Yeah.
It's when they get to the prescription that I think that it falls apart. The prescription being, lashing out at women generally or embracing despair or not kind of nihilism.
It's a feminist message. I mean,
I gotta say the lashing out thing, I would nitpick on that one. It's not lashing out at women, it's just lashing out at the individuals, at least for me. It's not even lashing out. It's just laughing at the individual videos that we're watching with the propaganda that they're spewing. We're critiquing the individual and the mindset of certain individuals that partake in that ideology. But the message is never all women. It's just these bozos that we're reacting to. At least that's how I see it. I don't know. Are there guys in this space that genuinely have like seething anger and despise the other side? I'm sure there are. I'm sure there are, dude. But like the rest of you have had a good mother a great father. My parents are still together, married, under a traditional household. I understand how the dynamic should look and how it looks when it works. And it's an incredible, beautiful thing that we should all aspire to. I would never proclaim to hate the other side, paint them in a wide brush like that. I just make fun of the ones that look like they need to be made fun of. Bring back some shame. Also, we critique the ones that specifically say stupid shit in a video and their hair is always funnily colored. So whatever. When you make comments on the internet, you open yourself to being critiqued as well. And there's plenty of people critiquing me, and that's fine. Who cares? But for the ones that are watching videos where the dudes are genuinely like upset and hate on the other side, be very careful, dude. That could lead you down a path of despair and loneliness, especially when you're inexperienced, because a lot of guys are just sexually frustrated with no experience and no access to women. And those hormones are really strong and really good at latching you onto an idea, making it part of your identity. And then that's game over for you. That's called propagandizing. You then become entrenched in your position the same way those maniacs on the other side, those other radicals, become entrenched in theirs, and you sound just as crazy as they do, which in turn will reward you with a life of loneliness because you're going to shoo away any decent person that would otherwise take you, that would love to be your partner. Be careful.
That is fundamentally to be anti-family. I don't understand how you could identify as a conservative at all, because everything that the left is trying to do, every Marxist principle, every feminist principle is about disrupting, the family unit. It's what connects everything from the climate change lobby to don't have kids, the planet's going to die, to feminism, be like men, we should be like men. It's all a disruption of the family unit. And if you are now arguing in favor of something that's fundamentally Marxist, then you have to examine whether or not you're conservative at all. That would be my pushback on that.
What we're trying to
I haven't heard any men say that they're anti-family. Maybe I need to just...
No, I have.
I don't want to give them press because they're all jerks to me online.
Okay.
But there are a handful of these guys. And the irony of it is they put themselves out there to be these big, virile, pinnacles of masculinity. But their anthropology is fundamentally, for lack of a better word, gay. Right? Their anthropology is fundamentally sterile. And it's saying, yeah, we shouldn't get married, we shouldn't have kids, we should just have sterile relations, random women. And so it's kind of how the irony that, we end up at the topic that no one's allowed to name anymore that Matt made a movie about. And, people say, well, that's so crazy, we should dial that back. That's just a consequence of the very same sexual revolution that has said for many decades now that men and women are exactly the same, which comes from feminism, right? So
horseshoe theory.
Totally, yeah. I mean, it's the logical conclusion of Gloria Steinem is these red pill bros, and they don't even realize it.
Well,
What I run into a lot, I mean, whether these people identify as red pill or not doesn't really matter. But when I talk about marriage on my show and I promote it and I talk about my own experiences, I hear all the time. I mean, the comments are full of people who are conservative who are saying, "Well, that's just your experience. That's a you got lucky. You have it easy."
Yes.
And so you're trying to trick men into this deal that isn't going to work for them just because you happen to find a good woman, and that's the kind of defeatist mentality I hear it all the time, all the time. And what I want to say to these men is like, it's an easy way to dismiss it, but we're all married in this room, we're all happily married, so we didn't get lucky. It's like you have to work at it every single day. It's a choice that you make, and there's a lot of women out there who are looking to make that choice also. So it's very easy to just kind of dismiss.
You can't say the culture has changed so much because feminism and say there's a lot of women. There isn't. It's the needle in the haystack. There isn't a lot of women with a conservative mindset, unfortunately. There's a lot of women parading a conservative mindset, but have the past of a liberal college student where she's been ran through the town bicycle. That's the issue. Like, to get a purely conservative mentality out of a woman from start to finish when you meet her it's hard, man. It's not in the United States. It's damn near impossible. Even in the small towns, it doesn't matter. That's the truth. And that is why men are getting passports and going overseas. Because overseas, whether you like it or not, religion is still very important to certain societies, which, whether you like it or not, causes people to behave in certain ways, which, you like it or not, makes them far better partners for a marriage. That's just the truth. And then there's the part of being grounded not only through religion, but familially. They're with their extended family, living in the same house, sometimes 10, 15 people at a time. All the cousins are there, the aunts, the uncles, the nieces. Like, they're very humble. They're very grounded. They understand the importance of family, and they value the family more than the individual. We're very individualistic in the United States, unfortunately. where how I feel, what I want, what I bring to the table matters more than our relationship together, building a future, we, us. You know, it's me, me, me. Unfortunately, the other side has adopted that mentality to a crazy degree. So that's where you get this disconnect. But to find your good woman, I have to push back on that shit because your age is also around the time where this massive shift was beginning to take place. And guys our age or younger are now dealing with that version on steroids. If you took these guys, reversed their age down to 25, hell, even just 30, and dropped them off in, here, you're a single man in the world today in the West, good luck. Date for marriage only, intentionally, and see how well you do. All these guys would have 0 matches. I guarantee you, bro, every single one of these guys in the hyper competitiveness of hookup culture today and just mating in general, none of these guys would be getting laid whatsoever. You would see a panel of 4 or 5 virgins, however many of the men are. That's the brutal truth. Grandpappy, the game isn't the same as it was back in your day. You can't just go up to a woman and say hello, hand her a rose, tell her how beautiful she is, and then her smiling back, receiving your compliment, and then you having a whole conversation and voila, how I met your mother. I handed her a rose. That shit's done for.
Back to Drew's point, actually. So I'm going to back your point before you back your own. So the real question is why that's arising on the right. You understand why that revolutionary movement exists on the left. I mean, Kant has spelled it out. It is fundamentally a Marxist movement that seeks to destroy the institution of marriage in order to level all of society so that you can build up, based on the ashes, some sort of weird scrap heap of new creation. The question is why that's happened on the right. And this is where I agree with Drew, is that because the right, and this goes back even some of the Taylor Swift points that you were making earlier about why the right is getting Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce wrong, just imagistically. Yep. I mean, I now agree with everything you said about Taylor Swift. But the reason that that's happening is because since every institution has now been fundamentally taken over by the left, or at least that's the belief of the right. If you extend that to every institution, that extends even to like the most important institutions, right? The right is looking and they're saying every institution that we once relied upon wrested out of our control, including things like church, right? Things that were very fundamental to our lives, wrested out of our control and then militarized against us. And so that's sort of the argument that the red pillars are making. What they're saying is that the institution of marriage was wrested out of our control and then perverted and used against us. In the same way that they're arguing that about the government or arguing that about the church or arguing that about the universities or the press. And the problem is that when it comes to marriage, because it's so personal and because in the end, there is no substitute for it, you can't just despair of the institutions and say build a giant alternative in the way, like you have to actually do the thing that conservatives really should be doing in nearly all of these modes, which is seize control of the institutions back. So what the big debate that's happening right now on the right is, can we do that with these institutions or do you burn them to the ground? And it differs institution by institution, right? I think most of us in this room would say like the university system, go ahead and burn it to the ground. Or the legacy media, go ahead and burn it to the ground. But when it comes to the institution of marriage, you can't burn it down. That's not something you can burn down.
Well, it's not an institution invented by man, for one thing.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And so you actually have to...
Well, you can burn it, but you burn civilization with it.
Exactly. And so I think that what's happened is a broad category error that the right has made. In being anti-institutionalist broadly, you're starting to see the most right-wing edges of the right wing say, well, that includes all institutions.
I agree with them on that one. Let's read some of the comments. It says, Matt Walsh, what's the alternative? I don't know. Ask Steven Crowder. Can't even say this word. God, I really do dislike this platform. Going your own silent path. How do they not know the name of the movement they're sitting around trying to educate us about? Yeah. Eliminate no-fault divorce. Didn't get married until I was 37. Now that I wanted to wait that long, I just never found... Oh, it says, not that I wanted to wait that long, just never found anyone. Just had our 19th anniversary, and our marriage is great. A perfect example of intelligent people who are completely stupid on the specific topic because they see the world through opinions and ideas and not through reality. Semi-true. They may be dumb on this topic, as you say, but it's not that they're not seeing reality. It's just they're seeing reality through their experiences in life, how they grew up, the social norms they grew around, which is completely disconnected from currently dating today. Like I said, this entire table of dudes, how many of them are there here? We got 1, 2, 3, four men? 5 men? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 men. All of them, I guarantee you, would be struggling to get laid in the world today as 25-year-olds, 30-year-olds with a decent paying job. And we know why. How many of them are over 6 feet? How many of them have a six-pack? How many of them are earning over 100,000 or more? Come on, man. It's stupid to say that. I understand. It really is. And they could clip this and go, this guy is so lost. But any man that's ever opened up a dating app or ever heard a woman speak about what attracts her or what she's looking for in a man will tell you. So in a way, they did get lucky. Are they delusional? Not really. Just out of touch. That's what I would call it. Out of touch with the norms in society today. It's not their fault though. At least they're having a conversation. A ton of boomers may see this and, go down a path of discovering some new content, yada, 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 whatever. The more it gets discussed, the better. No such thing as bad publicity. Anyways, we'll see you guys on the next one. Comment below what you think. I'm actually interested in reading the comments on this one, seeing your guys' thoughts, counter to mine, counter to theirs, and your overall perspective on the conversation. We'll see you guys on the next one. Take care, everybody.